Now, this is really going to be part two of what really went on with my wife during her last few months before she passed away from alcohol use disorder. And if this is the first time seeing me, again, we were married for 25 years, and she succumbed to the disease in February of 2020. Now, when we pulled out of the house, I remember backing out of the driveway, and I was taking her on her way to her seventh rehabilitation facility. And I said, not to be mean, Amanda, but once you look at the house, because it's going to be the last time you're going to see it, likely for a long time and probably never. And she just got kind of quiet. And I remember the drive, it was about 100 miles to LA to her rehab facility, and it was a residential facility. And we didn't say a single word. There wasn't a single word to be said. I don't think she really understood what was going on. I think she was fairly inebriated. And I think at this point there had been some degree of Wernicke-Korsakoff. She had a degree of wet brain where I think some dementia had been set in at this point. And then I can remember we arrived to the facility, we drove up into the driveway. It was just like a regular house. We walked up into the front, and like most of these facilities, you have to ring the doorbell and you have to wait a period of time for somebody to come out, and they have to, like onboard you. And I remember her walking up. I mean, she was off crutches at this point, but she still had a big knee and ankle, big leg brace on her leg from her knee replacement surgery that she had had probably 3 months before this. So she was still fairly wobbly, but she was quiet. She didn't really say anything. And it was the energy that she was exhuming was very different than her normal bubbly self. So we walked in the place, and I remember set her luggage off, and they they said, they asked her a few questions. I helped them ask the questions for the onboarding because she was having trouble really concentrating on what they were asking her, like her name, where she lived, real basic questions she was struggling with. So after we did that for about 20 minutes, I really said goodbye and walked out the door. And I can remember driving home after dropping her off. I just headed right back home, another 100 miles to get home. And I can remember just kind of being kind of complacent and going, wow, that was really weird. I've never seen her that quiet and that lack of energy. I mean, there's just like a heavy, heavy depression that was exhuming from her. And she really wasn't talking, and she really wasn't cognizant. It just felt like she wasn't in the room anymore, which was the saddest thing because she was always so bubbly and vivacious and really the life of the room. And all that was gone. And I remember, driving home, and it was just a weird feeling. It was just weird. My son was at college. Now my wife was in a rehab facility in a big empty house myself. And I was like, well, I guess this is going to be the new life. And if you've heard this story before, I think it was about, 8:30, 9 o'clock the next morning, the rehab facility called me up just frantic, that Amanda had fallen down a flight of stairs, and they'd already ambulance had already taken her to UCLA, which was luckily only a mile away. They were very close to the hospital, and they were just frantic. And I remember at the time going, why are they so frantic? I mean, she's fallen down the stairs at our house all the time. I was thinking, well, this is just another time, and didn't really get the full picture. And I was kind of the attitude, well, I've dropped her off. I'm kind of done with the situation, and that sounds mean for some people, but if you've lived it, there comes a point where you've just had enough, and she needs to be around professional people who can take it from there, because I could no longer do it. And I think that's very relatable for families. The real problem here was I didn't have an understanding of the level of injuries that she had sustained, and no one really explained it. In fact, after the rehab had called me, I really didn't think much of it. I figured she would just be in the hospital, and then they would take her back to the rehab, a few days later. And I didn't really hear anything until about a week and a half later. I mean, literally that much time went by, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and a emergency surgeon called me up, and I had my phone next to the bed. I don't know how I answered the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I answered it. And we just want to let you know that your wife is, we just finished surgery with her. Her heart had stopped twice in surgery. And we just want to let you know that we need to have an authorization to resuscitate or not resuscitate. I was like, what? I thought she was at the rehab facility. That's how what a lack of understanding that I had what was going on. And I hadn't communicated with him because you get to the point where you're done. And I said, without even thinking about it. Well, of course I wanted her to resuscitate, you know, and so they did. Um, and unfortunately, that's when I realized how bad the situation was. And I remember it was at this point that I had to tell everybody because I mean this was all news to me. So I called her parents, I called her family, and I called my family. You know, God bless my brother, man. He flew out from Vermont within a couple of days because I told him I didn't even want to go into the hospital. I'm certainly not going to go in there by myself again. There's no way. And you know, he was like, "You got to go. You got to go." I'm like, people didn't realize that you know you're tired of the circus, and I was at the end of the road. It really gets to that point, and if people have a problem with that, you never been there. Anyways, we did drive in, and remember the first time was she'd been there 2 weeks. And my sister came the following week from Florida. I mean, my family flew in. I mean, it was pretty apparent that it was a very very serious situation. And unfortunately, she passed away after 28 days, and that was the end of the road. It was a very very emotional and sad time. I've made many videos on that. I don't need to go over that again. So that was really the end for Amanda, you know, unfortunately. And again, I go over this in the memoir, Amanda: A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. And the book is actually it's been available for about 6-7 days now. You can pick one up. You can go to my link in the link tree. You can go to the website and then click on the PayPal link, and it pulls right up. They're all being shipped out on Thursday, which is tomorrow, which is December 12th of 2024, and then you know afterwards. It'll be on Amazon starting tomorrow, but you can also purchase it, you know, pre-orders right in my link, and they're going to go out tomorrow anyways. I appreciate everybody listening. There may be a part 3 because the ending, there's a lot of little nuances that went on. Again, I go live Monday through Friday around 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time and 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Again, thanks so much for listening.